The worst part wasn't being alone. It was feeling invisible in a life I had spent over a decade building. I stopped answering phone calls, stopped going out. My clients gave me space. Some sent polite emails, others didn't bother. And honestly, I preferred the silence. Because silence doesn't ask you to explain, it just sits with you. A week passed, then two. I moved into the guest room, not because the master bedroom haunted me, but because the mattress smelled like her perfume. Cedar and amber, still strong on the pillows, even after I stripped the bed. Then, one Sunday, there was a knock at the door. I almost didn't answer, but something in the rhythm. Familiar, unrushed, patient. It was Emily, Claire's older cousin, but always more my friend than hers. She used to help me in the yard when Claire traveled. Said pulling weeds was meditative. She was holding a brown paper bag. "I brought lemon bars," she said. No explanation, no pity. Just, "I figured you weren't eating much." She was right. We sat on the porch. Didn't talk much at first. The breeze moved through the maple trees like it had somewhere better to be. Emily sipped her iced coffee and finally said, "She's an idiot, you know." I didn't respond, didn't need to. She went on, "She always wanted to be the center of gravity, but you made the house feel like home." That hit me, harder than I expected, because I realized no one had ever said that before, not even Claire. Over the next few weeks, Emily came by often. Never unannounced, never too long. She didn't check in like I was a patient. She just existed beside me, watered the plants I forgot, left soup in the fridge with a sticky note. Heat. Don't microwave? It ruins the basil. One night, I asked her if she blamed me. Her brow furrowed. For what? For letting her go. She leaned back in the chair, crossed her arms, and said, "You didn't let her go, Michael. She let go of you. You just stopped chasing someone who never planned to stay." That night, I found my old sketch pad, the one I hadn't touched in over a year. I flipped through empty pages until I landed on a pencil draft of a cabin by a stream, a project that never got built. I sharpened a pencil, started shading again. Lines, shapes, a roofline. It felt strange. Not good, not bad. Just like breathing again. 3 days later, I emailed a former client. Told her I was open to commissions again. She responded in an hour. "We've been waiting for you to come back." And just like that, I started to rebuild. Not a house, not a marriage, but myself. I wasn't healed. Not yet. I still woke up some nights, reaching for a body that wasn't there. Still replayed her words. "You're not going anywhere in life." But now, I was beginning to question hers. Emily helped more than she realized, never too sweet, never too intense. She'd say things like, "You need new curtains," or "Your porch light is flickering again." Translation, I see you and I care, but I'm not here to rescue you. One evening, as we sat watching the rain drip off the gutter, she turned to me and said, "You know, there's something stronger than anger." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? What's that?" She smiled. "Peace. Because when you've got peace, they can't touch you anymore." That line stuck with me. Long after she left, long after the rain stopped. Because for the first time since Claire walked out, I felt something shift. Not an explosion, not a breakthrough. Just a quiet decision forming, the kind you don't announce. You just start living it. The first night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was crying, not because I missed her, but because the silence felt too loud. You ever sit in your own house and feel like you don't belong anymore? That was me. Sitting at the edge of the bed we picked out together in a room filled with things that still smelled like her, but somehow felt abandoned. Not empty, just used. I didn't tell anyone, not my brother, not my coworkers. There's a strange kind of shame that comes with being left because you're too steady. She didn't cheat, not that I knew of, but something about her leaving still felt like betrayal, like she'd already packed up emotionally long before the suitcase hit the floor. And in that vacuum, my mind started filling in the blanks. Friday afternoon, I drove past the coffee shop downtown, the one where she used to freelance before freelance became a euphemism for not working but needing space. And that's when I saw her. Claire, at a window seat, laughing, with someone I didn't recognize. He had a man bun and a sleeve tattoo, wore some kind of artsy scarf even though it was 78 degrees. She was leaning in, her hand touched his wrist. Not accidentally. I didn't go in, didn't call, didn't snap a photo or text a friend. I just sat there, watching her move on like she'd been practicing for months. And I realized something brutal. This wasn't new. She hadn't left me that Thursday morning. She'd left me long before that. When her body was still beside me, but her eyes were somewhere else. I drove to the lake, sat on a bench where I used to sketch cabin designs for fun. Now I just stared at the water and asked questions that had no answers. Was I boring, too predictable? Not visionary enough for her world of chaos and color? The next day, I got an email. From Claire. Subject line, house stuff. No greeting, no. Hope you're okay. Just a list. I'll come pick up my paints and tablet Tuesday. Please don't be home. I'll call the internet company to transfer the account. Don't move my books. I know how I left them. Like I was some landlord and not her husband. 12 years. Reduced to bullet points. I sat with that email open for a long time, reading it, rereading it, looking for emotion. There wasn't any, just logistics. Clean, surgical, cold. That Tuesday, I wasn't home, but I watched the security cam footage later that night. She moved like she didn't recognize the place, like every object was foreign. She didn't linger, didn't look around, except once. She paused in the hallway, stared at the doorway to the guest room. That room used to be her reading space. Before she stopped reading, she touched the doorframe, then left. That was the only moment she looked human. 2 days later, I got a text. Can we talk? I didn't reply. An hour passed, then another. Then came a second message. I'm not doing well, please. And for a moment, just a flicker, I felt something crack. Not forgiveness, not longing, just a shadow of the man I used to be. The one who would have dropped everything to comfort her. But that man was gone. And I wasn't about to dig him up just to give her closure. She didn't earn. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. Not soundly, but deeply. Like a man who had finally stopped asking what he did wrong. You're not going anywhere in life. And I can't stay stuck here with you. That's what she said. Just like that. No shouting, no crying. Just those words tossed out like trash she didn't feel like carrying anymore. And I just stood there, coffee in one hand, blueprints in the other, as if either could protect me from what was coming. My name's Michael Trent. I design houses for a living. Quiet ones, in the hills, where you can hear yourself think and forget why you ever needed to run. I'm 38, no kids, no criminal record, no flashy car in the driveway. Just a man. Who thought building a life together meant you'd stay to watch it grow? I met Claire in college, architecture school in Portland. She was a graphic designer, bold, brilliant, the kind of woman who made heads turn and professors pause. I was the guy who offered her a seat during a campus blackout. The guy who carried backup batteries in his backpack, just in case. We were opposites. But you know how people say opposites attract? That's only true until one of them gets tired of compromising. We got married 5 years after graduation, moved back to my hometown, Ashland, Oregon. She said she liked the trees, said small towns had charm. And I believed her. God help me, I believed every word she said back then. We bought a modest craftsman fixer-upper. One of those places with good bones and bad wiring. I rebuilt it with my hands. She painted the walls seafoam and mustard. Said it was eclectic contrast. I built her a studio in the attic. Soundproofed it. Added skylights. She never used it. 6 years into marriage, Claire started going on creative retreats. First for weekends, then full weeks, then 2 weeks. I didn't ask questions. I thought she needed space. Artists need space. I should support that. She came back from one trip with a new tattoo, a flock of birds taking off from her collarbone. I remember touching it, and she flinched. Said it was still healing, but looking back, I think that flinch said more than the ink ever did. One Thursday morning, she made pancakes. Claire never made pancakes. She poured the syrup like she was about to stage a farewell concert. Sat across from me, elbows on the table. I need to tell you something, she said. My first thought? Maybe she was pregnant. I smiled, I waited, and then, you're not ambitious enough for me. You're comfortable, too comfortable. I feel like you're holding me back. Each word was like a match dropped in dry leaves. Small sparks. Then the crackle. Then the burn. I didn't interrupt her. I just watched her eyes. They weren't angry, weren't scared. They were calm. And calm can be the cruelest emotion of all. I nodded. Once. Quietly. Because what do you say when someone tells you they're done with your entire life? She kissed me on the cheek, picked up her overnight bag, and walked out, like she was going to the grocery store. That was 7:46 a.m., I remember, because the grandfather clock ticked as she closed the door. And I swear to God, it echoed like a shotgun. It started small. A message from a developer in Bend. A reference from that client I emailed. Then another inquiry. Then 2 more. Turns out my name still held weight, even after going quiet. I didn't broadcast it. Didn't post on socials, didn't announce a comeback. I just started saying yes again. One design, then a remodel, then a vacation home with a view of Crater Lake. They said they liked my eye for calm. Funny, isn't it? The thing Claire said made me stagnant was the very thing people now paid me for. One morning I walked into a coffee shop downtown. Not our old one, a new one. A barista greeted me with, "Hey, are you the guy who did the lakeside cabin?" I blinked. "Yeah," I said. She smiled. My parents rave about it. They said it's the only place they can breathe. That word again, breathe. I left with a cappuccino and a strange sense of gravity returning to my chest. Then, it happened. 3 months after she left, Claire showed up. It was the annual arts fundraiser. Emily had talked me into going. "Just show your face," she said. "You've earned your spot back in the room." I wore my one nice blazer, the one Claire said made me blend in too much. Emily wore navy blue, simple, strong, like always. She wasn't on my arm, we weren't a thing. But she stood beside me like a pillar. Not a shield, not a sword, just present. Claire walked in 20 minutes after us. I felt it before I saw her. The air shifted. Then I heard the heels, the laugh, the perfume. Still cedar and amber. She wore red. Too bright. Too tight. Eyes scanned the room until they landed on me. She paused, just for a second, then smiled. Not wide, but sharp. She made her way over. Emily stepped back gracefully, as if giving us space wasn't a surrender, but a test. "Michael," Claire said, like my name still belonged in her mouth. "You look good," I nodded. "Thanks." She waited, expected me to ask about her. I didn't. "So," she said, "I heard you've been busy." I sipped my drink. "Working." Another pause. You know, she said, tilting her head, it's kind of impressive, you bouncing back like this. Her words were meant as a compliment, but her tone tasted like vinegar. Then came the twist. I've been thinking, maybe we gave up too fast. I blinked, slowly, let that hang in the air. She stepped closer. I've changed, she said softly. I've been seeing someone, a therapist. I'm learning how I sabotage things. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Let her keep talking, because some people dig their own grave if you just hand them the silence. I'm not saying we should jump back in, she added quickly. Maybe we could talk sometime. Coffee? I let the pause stretch, long enough for her to feel the weight of it. Then I said, you know what's funny? She tilted her head. I stopped drinking coffee. Her smile cracked, just slightly, but enough. I stepped around her, not past, around, like a tree that no longer blocked the sun. Emily rejoined me, eyes calm, hands steady. Everything okay? I nodded. Yeah, and I meant it. Later that night, I found a message from Claire. Short, desperate. I made a mistake. I didn't reply. Didn't delete it either, just let it sit there. Unread. Unneeded. Because that message wasn't for me. It was for the version of me she thought I still was. A week passed. Then 2. Claire didn't message again. The silence that used to ache now felt like peace. I didn't need revenge, not anymore. Because the truth? She was already living with the consequences of her own choices. I didn't have to win. I just had to keep going. The fundraiser had made waves. People noticed me again, not because I demanded attention, but because I walked in whole. Not bitter, not broken, just better. One morning, I got a package at my door. No sender name. Inside, a photo frame. It was a picture Claire must have taken during one of our early winters together. Me, in the snow, building a fire pit. I looked happy, unaware, free. There was no note, just the photo. But it told me everything. She missed that version of me. The version who still bent to hold her up, still poured himself out to keep her warm. But that man? He didn't live here anymore. I kept the photo, but I didn't hang it. Just placed it in a drawer next to the extra batteries and measuring tape. Because some memories aren't meant to be erased, just archived. Emily came by the next day with 2 coffees. Even though I said I'd quit, she brought mine decaf. I figured you missed the ritual, she smiled. She was right. We sat on the porch, the same creaky one I'd almost torn down years ago, but now the cracks felt earned, like laugh lines on an old friend's face. She turned to me, brushed a leaf from her lap. So, what now? I smiled. I'm thinking of building again. Her eyebrows lifted. Another house? I shook my head. No, something smaller. I showed her the sketchbook, the new one, not the dusty pages from before. A tiny cabin, built for stillness. 2 chairs, a view of the pines, no internet. Just enough. She flipped through the pages slowly, didn't say anything for a while, then, you gonna live in it? I nodded. Not full time, but enough to remember who I am when the noise gets too loud. That evening, we stood in the backyard. The autumn light made everything gold. She leaned into me. Not to claim, not to confess, just to be. And I let her, not because I needed to be saved, but because she never once asked me to shrink. Later that night, I pulled out a note card, wrote 1 sentence in black ink. You were wrong, I wasn't holding you back. I folded it, slid it into the back of the photo frame Claire had sent. Didn't mail it, didn't text her, just let it exist, like a whisper tucked behind the past. Months passed, I built the cabin, with my own hands. No blueprint, no deadlines. Just intuition. Each nail, each plank, each hour spent with the wind in my ears. It healed something that no apology ever could. On the final day, I placed 2 chairs on the porch. One for me, one for whoever stayed long enough to earn the quiet with me. Emily visited that weekend, brought a bottle of wine. We sat in silence until the sun dipped behind the ridge. Then she said, "You know what I like most about this place?" "What?" "No mirrors." And she was right, because I didn't need to look at myself anymore to see who I'd become. I could feel it in the way I stood, the way I didn't flinch, the way I no longer waited for anyone to choose me. Claire once said I wasn't going anywhere in life. She was wrong. I just wasn't going where she wanted, because where I ended up was somewhere she could never follow. Not because I pushed her out, but because peace doesn't leave a trail for chaos to find. Sometimes the loudest revenge is the man who rebuilds his world without ever raising his voice.